Hey there, friends and fiends, and welcome to Cerb's Academy of Higher Learning. And I'll be your host, Cerberus. Tonight we're going to show a little feature, a little 10-minute short film called Alcohol is Dynamite. Now, I think it's dynamite, but I don't think it's what they mean. But anyway, it's a cautionary tale about teenage drinking. And you know this isn't going to end well, right? None of the actors or crew are credited in this film. The only person credited with it is Sid Davis, and he is listed as a producer. And I discovered that this is a Sid Davis Productions film. Sid Davis Productions, run by Mr. Sid Davis, go figure, was pretty well known for making short educational films that were sold mostly to schools and police departments, churches, youth organizations, and such. Sid Davis Productions managed to crank out somewhere between 150 and 200 films in a pretty short while. Sid Davis prided himself on making all of the films for only $1,000 each. That was his rough starting budget for every one of these films. Now, granted, they're one-reel wonders. You know, they're all run around 10 minutes or so, but still, that's pretty cheap even for the 50s and 60s. Anyway, he was known as the King of Calamity. The subject matter for his films is just all crazy bad stuff. It's about, stranger danger and getting molested by the local homosexual, or some awful, untrue, weird thing like, that marijuana leads to heroin, or that having one drink of alcohol, as in tonight's film, leads to, being a bum on Skid Row, crashing your car and killing your girlfriend, or maybe just being a lifetime alcoholic. Yeah, that's this guy. So, without any further ado, I'd like to share the film with you. Stay tuned to the end, though, and I'll tell you how the Sid Davis and John Wayne are very connected, and even financially as well as professionally. But until then, enjoy the film. Oh, by the way, be sure your sound is turned up. I didn't leave this thing alone. I kind of gave it the old Cerberus treatment. So I hope you enjoy it. Take it away.
I guess you've seen that sign enough times, haven't you? Any bar or club that sells liquor by the drink, or any retail store beverages, is sure to have it in a prominent place. Bud and Jack went in to buy a case of beer for a picnic. And right now, they think it's pretty unfair that they can't walk into a store like anyone else and buy liquor just because they're underage. Oh, that's me, incidentally, Tom Ullman. I'm a sports reporter on the city paper. The boys want me to take their money and buy their drinks for them. No deal. Maybe it'd be a good idea if I told them a little something about why that sign is in the window and why they should be glad it is there. For anybody who fools around with this, adult or minor, is playing with dynamite. Dynamite! I decided to tell these boys about Paul, Jim, and Tip. I guess you could say Paul started it all, but it wasn't all his fault, actually. You see, he was just too good a musician for his age. He played in dance bands with older fellas, and they taught him things he'd be better off not knowing. Jim had the richest father in town, and Tip, well, Tip was captain of the basketball team, all state the year before. They saw something funny in the way their friend Paul was acting as soon as he joined them. According to Paul, it's no fun drinking alone. He wants company. The other boys have never tasted liquor before, so they have to be dared into it. That first drink isn't very enjoyable, I can tell you. It burns your insides and it makes your eyes water. Tip refused the drink. He said he was in training and basketball meant too much to him. But that isn't good enough for his friends. He has to be a sport. You'd be surprised at how little it takes to get you tight that first time. That's true with adults, but at high school age, even though your mind seems mature, your body isn't, and alcohol is a violent narcotic. wonder what alcohol does to the human body, aside from making the owner of it act like this? Well, let's take Paul as an example, since he started all this anyway. Anthropologists say that what distinguishes man from the lower animals is his power of reason, a power found in the portion of the brain called the frontal lobe. Well, when a drop of alcohol gets in the blood, that's right where it heads for, the frontal lobes. Almost as if its aim in life was to transform man back into an animal, to take away the reasoning powers and self-controls, or to use a highbrow word, inhibitions that make that human society possible. What would happen if the bottle weren't empty, if the boys could go on drinking? Well, alcohol doesn't stop after knocking out the frontal lobes. It starts in on the whole nervous system and eventually affects every function of the body. How much alcohol does this take? Well, suppose there are 3 or 4 drops of alcohol for every 1,000 drops of blood. Then the drinker looks like this, only half conscious, hardly able to stagger, hard to breathe. If he keeps on drinking and the concentration reaches 4 to 5 drops, he ends up like this. And that's fortunate in a way, because if he was able to lift his hand for another drink, the undertaker would have another customer. You see, all it takes is 5 drops of alcohol for every 1,000 drops of blood, a half of 1%. And brother, you're a dead duck. Well, that first night was the start. Paul, Jim, and Tip took to drinking together. Jim's father gave him plenty of money, and Jim kept them in liquor. Fortunately, a patrol car spotted Jim going through a stop sign, and he's picked up on suspicion of drunk driving. Jim's father was summoned to the station, and because this was Jim's first offense, was successful in having Jim released, following a severe warning. In the meantime, Tip's playing went from bad to worse, and then came a day that Tip would like to forget, but one he'll remember all his life. He was kicked off the basketball team. But his 2 good friends were there to console him, and they were sure a drink would make him feel better. Well, the alcohol story usually runs to a pattern. The boys were drinking more and more, depending on liquor to get them through the day. The days were no fun anymore without a bottle. Naturally, what the waiter is doing is reminding him that he has a sign in his front window, too. We do not serve liquor to minors. But Jim had thought of that. Jim's date, Judy, had never tasted liquor before, but like dope addicts, one drinker can't stand the sight of somebody not drinking. And soon, Judy catches the spirit of the thing. The waiter has a right to be sore. They'll give the club a bad name, he says, and he boots them all out. He wants to keep his license.
You are out of here!
The boys can't understand Judy. Only 2 drinks and look at her. But it's really very simple. Tolerance for alcohol varies from person to person. Judy is one of those on whom it acts like a deadly poison. And on someone who has never used it before, the effect is a lot more violent. Jim himself is in no shape to drive. Right now he wishes he'd taken just 1 less drink. the result. Just another victim of a drunk driver. One of the estimated 10 to 20,000 last year alone. Jim failed a few tests in high school after he started drinking, but he never failed a test as serious as this one. Jim went to jail with plenty of time to think. Well, what happened to the three boys after the accident? Paul was almost a complete alcoholic for a while, but then he became one of the youngest members of Alcoholics Anonymous, and now he has a chance to save himself. Jim never got over that accident. When he got out of jail, he went back to drinking and ended up on Skid Row, a hopeless derelict. Tip, the third boy, realized at the scene of the accident that he was playing in the wrong league. Right then, he made a vow never to touch a drop of liquor again, and he hasn't. How do I know? Because Tip is my son. Why did Americans in 1 year spend $2 billion more for liquor than for all education? That's a tough one to answer. When a man can't or thinks he can't measure up, he looks for a crutch, something to help him. He takes a drink. Alcohol deadens the part of the brain that holds his worries and responsibilities, and he thinks it's helping him. But instead of helping him, every drink gives him that much less chance of ever being able to get along. And his crutch ends up by destroying him. Now, if a mature adult admits his failure as a man or woman by resorting to alcohol, what about the boy or girl who never gives himself a chance to learn to adjust without liquor? He's licked before he starts. So that's why you see that sign in the window, and that's why every boy and girl should be glad that somebody put it there. Because alcohol is dynamite.
Hey, what did you think about that? I sure hope you enjoyed that. That was Alcohol is Dynamite, being run through the Cerberus treatment. And I really hope you enjoyed watching that. I had a ball making it, and I think I had so much fun I might make more of these. We'll see where that goes. But I promised you a story about how John Wayne and the maker of this film, Sid Davis, are connected. Well, it turns out that before he became Mr. Calamity producer, Sid Davis, because of his stature and athletic ability, had been a stand-in for John Wayne, of all people. Apparently, he was a pretty big dude. And he had worked with Wayne several times on quite a few films. And so they had become pretty good friends. Well, in 1949, this girl was abducted in Los Angeles, California. The little girl's name was Linda Glukov, and she was abducted by a guy named Fred Strobel. And as it turns out, she was raped and killed. And the story broke nationwide. Today we would call it going viral, but it was picked up by all the news affiliates and run coast to coast pretty much in 1940. All the newspapers and so forth were running because she was abducted, and it was several days before they found her, so it became quite the media phenomenon for the time period. Well, at the time, in Inglewood, California, is Mr. Davis, and he has of his own a 6-year-old little girl. Well, he's in a conversation with Wayne one day on set somewhere, and he's carrying on about how scared he was about how dangerous he felt it was for his little girl, because she would just walk right up to strangers and speak to them and was easily coaxed away or distracted, and which 6-year-old kids are. Keep your eye on them, dude. Anyway, so Wayne agrees with him and says, you got to make a movie. And so they talk this out, and it turns out Sid Davis decides that he's going to make a film. And Wayne, being the supportive guy that he was, coughs up $1,000, which in 1949 would have been, 10 grand now? You know, so he coughed up a nice chunk of change, and Sid goes out and makes this movie. Now, to keep costs down and so forth like that, he got real school children and he got real cops. And he didn't use any kind of technical advisors of any kind, just the cops that were on set and so forth. And he grinds out this movie called The Dangerous Stranger. And proceeds to, by his own hard work and beating the street and so forth, manages to sell this movie to literally hundreds of schools and police departments, and manages to rake in within a year or two a grand total profit of $250,000 off of this one reel 10-minute movie that doesn't even have sound. Well, Davis takes his $250,000 and reinvests it again and begins to crank out more of these movies to sell to the same schools that he already sold the first rats to. Well, he begins to just create his own little calamity film empire, and like I said, cranked out close to 200 of them. Now, I don't know if he made the same profit off of all the others as he did the first one, but we can assume that he did pretty well. I'm kind of curious. I might look into, if I do another one of his films, I might look into what Sid Davis's net worth became before he passed away. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting story with about him and John Wayne. I want to thank you all for watching. I can't tell you how much fun I had making this, and I could not have ever done this without the help and support of my friends in the Vortex. And you guys know who you are. Thank you very much. And until next time, this is Cerberus signing off from the Cerb's Academy of Higher Learning. Right? He's just like the film that we just watched. There was no actual sound in it. Dogs, I don't know what's got you messed up, but stop it. Anyway. Sorry for the edit. My dogs decided to go insane. Well, anyway, I can't do that.